So YUZU, the hugely popular Switch emulator, is officially dead. Yes, earlier this week, Nintendo was successful in suing them and shutting them down for good. Let's quickly look at why YUZU was so loved among us handheld gamers, 3 reasons including the big factor that led to them getting shut down, and what this means for the future of Switch emulation, in which there are some good news and also some bad news. So let's dive straight in, and yes, the YUZU emulator was an incredible way to play our Switch games that we owned on our ROG Allies, Steam Deck OLEDs, or whatever our favourite PC gaming handheld is. And playing Switch games on these is so much better in many cases than playing on the aging, the 7-year-old Switch console itself that was underpowered when it first released in March 2017. For example, that 1080p Full HD display on the ROG Ally really brings out a crispness that the Switch at a much lower 720p resolution just cannot match. Then those incredible Ally Dolby Atmos spatial speakers that I rave about all the time right here on the channel deliver sound that simply blow away the puny speakers on the Switch. Another huge benefit is that myself and many others with bigger hands simply cannot play our Switch handheld for more than, say, 20 minutes before our hands cramp up with the Joycons being so minuscule. If I ever do want to play on my Switch OLED, then I have to use third-party Joycons like these fantastic QRD Stellar T3s that I've covered on the channel, link in the description. Whereas the Ally and Steam Deck are just so comfortable to play on for hours and hours and hours. So there were 3 factors, including a fatal one, why I believe YUZU got killed off this past week. The first is that when we think about emulation, the majority of us think of classic retro consoles like the SNES, which is my personal favourite old school console. Although playing many of these games from the 90s in 2024 is pretty brutal. In fact, in my last video I mentioned how amazing it is that wrestling games, for example, have evolved to such a degree that we just would not have thought possible just 30 years ago. And that's the key thing, is that YUZU is emulating a console in the Switch that is still current. It's still releasing games to this day instead of the myriad of emulators celebrating the retro consoles of yesteryear. The second reason is that for the vast majority of us who wanted to play our Switch games we legitimately own but on our favourite PC handheld, perhaps the temptation to also download and play some current Switch games that we don't and probably wouldn't have otherwise played was just too great. And Nintendo obviously saw this, was well aware of this, and had to take action. And the third, and in my eyes the fatal reason, is that YUZU were making money through their Patreon membership at Nintendo's expense, where YUZU users could pay a monthly fee to get access to the very latest early access versions of YUZU for the best optimization in games. While it's completely understandable for the incredibly talented developers at YUZU to be financially rewarded and compensated for their efforts, this created situations like Tears of the Kingdom being made available a full week and a half before Nintendo's official release date, but you had to pay for the early release version of YUZU to play it. And this was the killing blow, with Nintendo themselves using this as heavy ammunition against YUZU in their lawsuit, stating that a pirated copy of Tears of the Kingdom was downloaded over 1 million times in the 10 days before the game's official launch, with YUZU's Patreon doubling in subscribers in that same window. So there's good news and bad news when it comes to the future of Switch emulation. The good news is that the last and final build of YUZU works and games we already have installed do work. Emudeck, the amazing app that makes emulation so easy and enjoyable, have been really smart in how they've dealt with this in choosing a neutral stance, in that they won't remove YUZU if you already have it, but new users are out of luck, as YUZU will obviously now not be a part of the installation process. The other aspect of good news is that Ryujinx, another popular Switch emulator, is still available. And while it's possible that Nintendo could go after them, Ryujinx are in a much safer position, as even though they have a Patreon, they don't profit from exclusive early releases of their software, which was ultimately the death knell for YUZU. The bad news is that with no future development of YUZU, any upcoming Switch games or updates to existing games that require an updated firmware will not work with the last and final build of YUZU. The other bit of bad news is that Citra, the popular 3DS emulator, also got wiped out in the lawsuit too, which massively sucks as the 3DS shop got shut down last year in March 2023, so we can't even buy digital 3DS games legally even if we wanted to. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, with it being a huge topic, and I can completely understand both sides of Nintendo wanting to protect their content, but this also making it now much harder for us to play Switch games we've legitimately bought on our favourite PC handheld. For example, are you one of the 71% who voted that you're absolutely gutted that YUZU has now officially been shut down? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to like if you found this helpful, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as a thank you for watching right to the end of the video, I'd love to share this awesome quote. Just a simple reminder to keep pushing forward, to stay on track and to be positive. No matter what kind of rough spot you're in mentally, physically, emotionally, it's all temporary. Don't be hard on yourself. If you're in a rough spot today, just remember that it is temporary and you will get through this. So stay encouraged today, guys. And check this video out if you want to know the 5 reasons why the brand new WWE 2K24 is the best wrestling game ever made. I appreciate every single one of you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.